Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Log Talk podcast brought to you by Pertinier Outdoors. Again, this is your host, Billy Harvey. Hope everyone had a nice weekend and had a chance to get out and spend some time in the woods. So this episode will be just Danny and I sitting down. We finally had a chance to catch up after our hunt. We kind of hadn't seen each other much after his health concerns and issues he had. He's been laying low and hasn't been able to get out and hunt much or really do much of anything strenuous due to doctor's orders. So kind of good to get a chance to sit down with him, to see him, and hear what his updates are, what he's dealing with on the health side of things, as well as what his plans are to be able to get out and hunt. So we'll let that conversation develop, and you'll hear what we talk about. But everything is good with him, and glad everything's well there. So couple housekeeping items. We're continuing to do our breedinum radio, which is we're shooting. It looks like it's gonna be on Fridays, but we're shooting Thursday or Friday of each week to get that episode out. This past week was a pretty long-winded one, with it starting out with my dad, my brother, and I, and so we probably won't be having the three of us on to just bullshit like that, because it takes a good while for us to produce what we're trying to talk about, and I know that we want to try to keep this a pretty quick and informational type of podcast each week. So that will hopefully be tightening that up a little bit, but hope you've enjoyed that so far. If you are following along and want to participate and maybe even get on the podcast with us to share your stories, hashtag any of your stuff with breedinum, and we're following a hashtag, so we'll jump on there and grab your stuff and either repost it, or we'll even reach out and try to line up getting you on if you've got a story to share. So this is not all about killing stories. I think it's important that we highlight and we talk about opportunities as well, and just cool things that you see in the woods. So maybe you see a bear, or you see some good rutting activity, or something noteworthy that you want to share. Reach out, and I think there's everybody loves to hear a good story and to hear about something cool that happened to you in the woods. So make sure to definitely engage there on Instagram, and make sure you give us a follow on Facebook if you use that platform as well. Most of our stuff that gets posted up on Facebook is primarily just shared over from Instagram. So thanks again for everybody following along. Hope you're enjoying this. I think this will be a fun episode with Danny, and first time using legitimate microphones and not just the one microphone off of our recorder. So hopefully the audio quality is a little bit better on this one, and let us know what you think. So thanks, enjoy, and have a good week. Having a beard with a microphone is a pain in the ass, because it's just rubbing is racing,
I don't know anything about that. Just doing there.
Bush.
Oh, that sounds so good.
All right. Oh, yeah. That's a fantastic.
Bush Light is so good it even tastes good with a cough drop.
You should put your microphone angled towards your.
Can you hear me that good?
So we're actually trying to do a podcast with microphones, and it's a little bit more difficult than just. Maybe I don't have you.
Can you hear me?
Not really. Why do you got it faced away from you?
Facing at me now.
It's you. Oh my God! There we go. Okay.
So we.
Oh yeah,
we had to re-crack those beers.
No. You could hear it pretty good, but I don't know what I'm doing with this recorder. All right, so
hopefully you got an edit function, so nobody's listening to all this.
I think this is what people like, though. It's real, a couple of guys just trying to find their way.
That's good.
That's
life.
I
hope so.
That's life, right?
Yeah.
We got a diesel refrigerator running in the background. It's got a Cummins 6.7 in it.
Tow mirrors out.
Yeah, it's got tow mirrors. So what's cooking, Danny boy?
Not much. got the crossbow getting sighted in. Pretty happy about that.
See that. What did Big Jim tell you that all of a sudden brought your groups right in there?
I thought I was doing good. I bought local. Went to the local archery shop. And the guy had just lopped part of his hand off with a log splitter.
So it was the owner.
Yeah. And
so that's what happened, because his wife posted on their Facebook page that he had a pretty serious accident.
I didn't get into it too much, but log splitter accident, like bad. I guess he had lopped off other parts of his hand before. So she goes, yeah, now his hand goes straight across.
Oh, God.
So I don't know what the deal was there, but...
But he was there. Mike was there.
Yeah, so... And I was glad I was there. They give you some tips that you're not going to get at, like, a Cabela's or anything like that. But they're not crossbow people either, really. So,
yeah.
I mean, they're just kind of talking me through it. And I couldn't really I didn't want to use my arm at that time to go into the range and draw it back until I saw the doctor. So, just kind of walked out of there with the crossbow, and they were telling me middle of the crosshairs 10 yards, then 20, 30, 40 underneath that. And Big Jim sent me a text and said 10 and 20 are your top crosshair, or the middle of your scope. And then my scope's got 4 markers below that. So he said it's actually 20, 0 to 20, I guess is what you would say. And then 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 maybe.
Really?
Yeah. It's got 20, 30.
Don't do that with your string. It's coming right across the microphone.
20, 30, 40, 50, 60 is what it would be.
So it was definitely not 10, 20, 30.
No, because I was...
The arrow's still rising at 20 yards.
Exactly. And it's funny you say that, because that's exactly what happened when I was shooting yesterday. Is I think I was just a little high at 10. I was like, okay, I'm going back to 20. And I think I kept it the same, and I kept it on the same spot in the scope, and I think it went way high. I was like, oh my God, like something's off here. So then I'm screwing around with it. I was like, I'm just gonna shoot out to 20 from this one spot, and it ended up being right. It's 20 and then 10 yards after that. So out to 40 today, which is pretty good. I've always shot PSE, so I that's kind of one of the reasons I went with that PSE. And then it was light, and that was one of the things I wanted, was a light crossbow. It's a little shorter, I think, in my opinion, too. I want to be able to carry it around.
From limb to limb it is? Or
yeah.
It looks really small just looking at it.
That one, compared to the other ones they had in the shop, there was maybe a handful in there. You had to really get up on it to get your eye on the relief right on your scope, and the stock is a little shorter, it seemed like, but super light too. That one's like under 6 pounds total package. And most of them are around 7 to 12, usually what I was seeing online. So I don't know. I wanted kind of light, and didn't really want to spend a ton of money on it. So it's kind of what I ended up with.
Nice. So I guess let's rewind back a little bit, because I'm just sitting here thinking about it, and I've gotten a bunch of questions, and it's come up from a lot of people, like, how's Danny doing, or what's going on, and all the stories that we've shared on the podcast have been from Brian and I's perspective on the whole thing. So I guess if you want, like, kind of we can dive into a little bit kind of back to Colorado, and you've had almost a month now to kind of reflect on it. It's pretty much a month.
Yeah.
To kind of reflect on it and see if there's anything that maybe that might have tipped you off, that you thought about, that you were feeling, that you knew there was something wrong. But then also, like, just kind of walk through the medical side of it, because we've all been kind of third hand talking about it, and you've been going through it. So I think the HIPAA laws, I don't know what we can say or not say. But
I don't know either. I don't know. nothing really tipped me off. It kind of happened. My arm was puffed up and hard to sleep on overnight, which was
Wednesday into Thursday.
yeah. So Thursday morning, I was in a lot of discomfort, and then, I mean, it's crazy. You think about it now, looking back on it, you're wearing long johns and long sleeves all the time, the whole trip basically. Like I was almost never taking my shirt off or my long johns off or pants off, whatever. So it's like at the end of the day, like you could have something going on under your arm, under your shirts and not know it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of crazy to think about afterwards, but yeah, that morning it was just like, man, my arm is not in good shape. And when you grabbed it there and I saw the look on your face, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to do something here. So we hunted and then took my shirt off and I was like, oh boy, this isn't good. So I got a little worried and then I think talked to Bob and he's like, yeah, I think he was kind of ready to get out of there and I wasn't itching to get out of there, but when that happened, it was like, okay, I got to do something. But it really didn't. It was weird. It didn't hurt. None of that. Just kind of.
There was no real discomfort other than the fact you couldn't get comfortable sleeping.
Yeah, and if I kept my hand below like my heart when I was standing, a lot of the fluid was like rushing to my fingertips.
So it kind of like felt like almost like full or
yeah,
you know like
exactly.
Yeah.
And that was like it. But yeah, I don't know. Went to the hospital and they kind of knew right away it was a blood clot. So that really sucked. Just, I don't know, being in a hospital 2,000 miles from home and like being at the end of a trip where you want to get home was just like, this sucks.
Yeah.
This really sucks.
And like trying to figure out like what was that whole, you had to do like the prescription thing to like set up that payment card. So you had to go get your prescription. Like there was all this stuff that
they wouldn't release me from the hospital without getting my blood thinner prescription.
And they didn't have a pharmacy.
No pharmacy at the hospital.
Yep.
So I was calling around to all these pharmacies in Denver trying to get them to get me this prescription. And it was specific and none of them had it and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I don't know, 2 procedures on my arm to get the blood clot out. And they released me in 2 days and flew home. I just had a checkup a week ago, and I gotta go see a surgeon. Basically said something happened not related to sitting in a car, and he just couldn't really pinpoint it. A lot of what he's saying is but the vein goes between your collarbone and your first rib, and people will actually have their first rib removed to maybe not have that problem, or if they've had a problem similar to me, then they'll just have that first rib removed.
So I guess there's not a lot of room there between
Your collarbone and your first rib.
I'm just feeling it right now. Like I don't know. There's not a lot of room there. So what, you could get those to like the collarbone compresses down on the on the rib and then it pinches off that.
Or your vein can just be not have enough dexterity to get between those 2 bones there, and it could just sit in the wrong way, or having a heavy pack on for long periods could just get that vein into a spot where it's not right. But it's all kind of weird that I guess maybe early on in the trip my vein got pinched and slowed the blood flow, and then eventually over time some sort of clot built up around that area. Because
so the specialists seem to think that the vein issue came first and then the blood clot came from that.
I guess that's my assumption.
So he didn't straight up.
I did a little research on it, and that's kind of what it sounded like is my vein was closed there, slowed blood flow. Maybe it got closed to a point where it was like collecting enough crap to make a blood clot in there. But that's kind of the understanding I got of it. And no one really does know. They went in with a balloon and they blew it up a little bit, and they didn't blow it up very much because it was still pretty clogged, but I'm on thinners, so there's no problem there. But what happened was the doctor I just saw said that just being on blood thinners, that vein could actually just open up again. And if it does that, like, they might not even know what happened. They could just they might just send me on my way and be like, you don't really have any problems there. Which
that's wild.
Yeah, I don't know. So
Jesus.
a month till I see the surgeon. Basically no heavy backpacks until then, which is in November. And I would assume, well, I was just thinking about it today. I think I reached my health insurance max out of pocket already for the year. So I'm kind of like, let's get this ball moving before
let's
the
do
end
it
of the
now.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, man, when I see that surgeon, I gotta try and get this thing moving.
Well, and you would think that they'd want to address that if there is an issue relatively quick, you know?
It sounds like because I'm on the thinners, it doesn't really, they're not too worried about anything. Like, I don't have any problems right now. I'm healthy.
That's wild, man.
So.
Yeah, the whole thing is just crazy.
Yeah. So yeah. 3 to 6 months on blood thinners, it sounds like, and seeing the surgeon. No heavy backpacks. He even said, he's like, I'm not sure. He's like, you had a good backpack, right? Like, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I had a lot of weight on my shoulder straps are tight, but
We carried heavier packs the last time out, and it was with lesser quality packs.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to imagine 30 plus pounds is sitting on your hips too.
Right.
Like, how much of that weight is on your hips?
Right.
A lot of it.
And you had quite a bit less, which, you know, weight is weight. I don't care whether you got 30 pounds or 75 pounds. You know, you could do that same damage with lesser weight. You know, it's not like you have to be carrying some absurd amount, but it's just such a freak thing. You know, it's like, I don't know. I almost feel like, not speaking for you, but you probably wish that there was some like definitive answer about why it happened and what, so that you don't like have to continue to think about it or wonder every time you do something.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was scheduling my next appointment with the surgeon, and they were like, it's a month out, and I was like, I kind of gave the lady a look like really? I gotta wait a month? And she started like pushing back to see if I could get in sooner. And she said, you get in with the physician's assistant. And I was like, I don't know about that. But I was like, that's exactly where I was coming from, is like, I just want it kind of done and over with.
Right.
And like, stop thinking about it or stop having appointments, whatever. Like, I want it done correctly, but like, just the waiting game sucks.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Right. It's crazy. It's freaking crazy, man.
It's like, it's another good, like, it's almost like you're type 2 fun. Like, you're 6 miles back in the woods, 3,000 feet elevation from the truck, and you got a blood clot in your arm that you don't know about. Like,
you assume it's a bug bite, or you know, you got a thistle.
I got these. So I don't know if the story ever came out, but I got back to camp, and there were these. It was a religious group. I don't know what it was, but they were up and over the hill camping from us that morning, and they were showing kids how to navigate the mountains. And these kids were like hiking up to the tops of mountains in the middle of the night, like pitch black.
Oh, they're doing
and
the night?
You don't remember that? When we were at camp the one night,
that's
their
right. You saw the
headlamps were up
headlamps.
on the top of that one
Right.
mountain. Like, just ridiculous. And so I went over there. They're like, oh yeah, we got wilderness survival. And I mean, they did not really have wilderness survival. The one guy thought I had a rash. They were like, put this hydrocortisone cream on it, take a couple Benadryl.
Yeah, that's wilderness survival right there.
They were giving me everything in their little like pamphlet books. I was like, oh my god, I got service at the I got service at the camp. I should just call somebody.
They gave you pamphlets?
No, they were looking through.
Oh, they were looking
their
through pamphlets.
to
Okay.
see
I didn't know
what-
if they were
what it
like
was,
trying to get
so.
you to, you know, come to Jesus or.
No, I mean, they probably were. But
So you remember Well, I think it was it Tuesday night? There was those choppers that kept coming back and forth over.
Yeah.
So when Brian and I were up where we were when we went up Friday night and we were shooting the breeze with those locals, we were telling them where we were hunting, the general area, and I don't know how it came up, but they were like, we were talking about how nasty that mountain range is, and when you get in there, you're so far from the road or whatever. We were talking about your situation, and they're like, man, did you guys? So they were like, did you guys hear about the dude that had to get airlifted out of there? And we're like, well, we're assuming maybe that's what that was, because there was a chopper that went over multiple times back and forth between where we were, the Val area, and headed back towards Denver. And it was just like, it kept going back and forth over the mountain range. So I guess there was a guy that had gotten an elk, and he was field dressing it, and he cut himself real bad. And he was back up in somewhere in that mountain range and had to get airlifted out. And it's like, I mean, that's just how quickly that shit can happen.
Yeah.
You know, if you're back in there, you know, I don't know. It's just wild. And you talk to people, you listen to stories, and it's like you just don't know. Like, that's the risk you take on these trips. Like, you don't think like we're in Colorado. We're not in like Alaska or British Columbia or whatever. But it's just like, you know, the risk is, it can be pretty serious. You know, like if we didn't make the move we did, who knows what would have happened. I'm glad we never found out, because we did the right thing by packing up and getting out of there.
Yeah.
You know, but
I'm still like that. We were there, and we were closing in on them. I felt really good about that hunt that morning, and I felt really good about what we were going to do that night, and that kills me a little bit. But going back to your point, I think about an Aaron Snyder podcast the one day. He said, you're in Colorado, you're always going to be a couple miles from the road, or you might not be a couple miles from the road.
You're always walking distance to the road.
Yes.
That's what he always says. Like, just head downhill and you're going to hit a road somewhere.
You're a half day or less walk to civilization. And for us, we're on a main hiking trail in the Gore Range, so it's like, you're really not in that bad of a situation. And I think I thought that while we were back there too. Like during the trip, it's like, you know, this is wilderness, but you're really not like ever in a bad life or death situation. But if you cut yourself and you're 4 miles from the truck and you're in bad shape, you're not getting back anytime quick.
No.
Like, we hiked down that mountain on Thursday about as fast as I could probably do it.
It still took us almost 4 hours.
Yeah, so it's like, and luckily I wasn't in any real bad discomfort, but like, if you had one leg to walk on and two guys had to support you getting down, you're talking 8 hours, like that's rough.
Right.
So,
and that's, I don't like this trip to me, like, I think we all are very hungry to go back up in there after deer. Like, I want to hunt deer in there bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you know, I'm not going to say we're never going to go back up in there for elk, but it's like, that was such an eye opener to me, what we went through. And like on my podcast with Todd, you know, he asked me like, what was one of the biggest things you took away from that trip. And one of the things, I had a couple things. One of the things I took away from it was like, I don't know, did you listen to our conversation? Or?
I haven't listened to that one yet. No.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, some of us have jobs that we got to actually work at.
Oh, I don't know how to respond to that, because my boss might listen to this. I drive a lot. A lot. But anyway, so, and I was part of the conversation, so I know what we talked about. So anyway, you know, I told Todd, I'm like, it's like the physical preparation for that. And it's like, I think you prepared, but I think you probably could reflect back on that and say you might have wanted to prepare more. And Brian had his own issues he's been dealing with. He physically was in the best shape he could be in. So then you knock it down, and we got Bob, who did incredible for a 60-year-old guy. Yeah. And then you got Tard, who's just a machine and can just walk 25 miles a day and never say boo about anything. But it's like you get an elk that far back in there, like that's a serious operation to get that stuff out of there. So that was like the biggest takeaway for me. So like if you go up in there, and it's one thing if you're hunting solo, like you're good. It's gonna take you 4 or 5 days to get that meat out of there, depending on how far you are.
Yeah.
But even with a group of guys, like you better go in there with a group of guys. If you got like 3-4 tags, like you better all be on top of your game if you plan on harvesting more than one animal, because it's just it just breaks everybody down so hard getting one out on your back.
Yeah, I mean, if we were going for elk again, I don't know. I personally don't know if I would ever go into that same area again for elk.
Yeah.
Just knowing like the way like my lifestyle is and just training and stuff like that. Like I just don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to put in that effort to train that hard to get me in that good a shape to want to go back up in there and want to pack more than one elk out of a base. Like I guess it's different if it's 3 of you.
Right.
And you're probably only going to shoot maybe one.
Right.
But when there's 5 of you, like you're hoping to get multiple animals.
And everybody's holding the tag, so it's like everybody wants that opportunity. That's why you got the tag.
Yeah.
But like that was kind of demoralizing to, I think it was everybody, like mentally just screwing with everyone. That like we came back in Monday and it was like, if we shoot an elk, the trip's done.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a mental, like when I had those elk in front of me Monday night, it's like I almost didn't want the hunt to end, you know? Like I'm like, I could shoot this and like literally complete a dream. But it's like I pull this trigger, the trip might be over. You know?
Yeah, and like me, I'm thinking, I'm like, man, if somebody shoots an elk, like it kind of put a hurting on the trip to me a little bit, because it's like, man, and we kind of did it going back. We hunted that Sunday morning, and we really should have just started packing. We should have got up there and should have just started packing, because then we would have only lost one day.
Right.
And if you think about it that way, we could have packed that out. We could have had maybe 2 hours back at the truck, just like gathering our stuff together, getting some energy in us.
We could have been back to the truck by noon. You know?
Had it maybe gone and just sat down and had a meal. We wouldn't have had to like do anything quick, but we did hunt that morning till 10 or whatever, and we didn't get back to our camp till noon or 1, and I mean it crushed our day.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but that was one of the worst nights of sleep I had the whole trip, was that night in the hotel.
Oh, I slept like a baby.
Did you?
Yeah,
I slept freaking
good.
terrible.
Yeah.
I had cotton mouth so bad that that AC was on, and my nose was dry, my mouth was like dried shut.
I loved it. You guys woke
Brian
up
kept trying to touch me. It was.
Yeah. You guys woke up in the worst mood ever, and I almost felt bad, because I was laying there in bed and I was like, I'll take another hour of sleep if I can get it.
Yeah, you were hoping. So I think it's always going to be something after we get back from these trips, that there's things that you learned, there's things that were eye openers. Obviously, your situation was a crazy, unexpected one, but that area, I am hungry to go back there for mule deer. I am hungry to go back there for a shorter week.
Yeah.
Like in talking with Todd, I was very interested to hear his story on how they traveled to Wyoming.
How many years have I been saying this to you?
2.
At least 2.
Yeah. You're right.
Okay. That's good to hear. I just wanted to hear you say I was right.
I'll look you in the eye and tell you you're right. I think that's, to me, like, it's a very doable to go to that area. It's not that far from Denver.
Yeah.
As far as, how long it's going to take you to drive there.
You don't need off-road.
You don't. All we would need is literally
Prius.
A freaking Prius to, just rent a compact car. And you could do that with a couple guys, You wouldn't have to have a whole herd of 10 hunters,
The tag is 0 points. You don't waste a point if we go in with the same tag.
Same idea. Yeah.
If we're going deer. I think that's what you're getting at, is going deer.
Yeah.
There's so many positives to that hunt. We've been up there twice now, and not one person was hunting mule deer, I don't think. Have we met a single person
No, you're
up
so
there
right. Yeah.
that's hunted mule deer? Yeah, no one. Which is the reason why there's... would you say that basin is 1 square mile? More?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's so deceiving, you know.
I mean, it's hard to tell unless
But
you
like,
put it on a map.
if you were to actually put it and look at the area where we were encountering deer every morning and every night, it's not that big of an area, you know.
Oh, it's those meadows were.
There, yeah. I guess it's big, but it's not like overwhelming.
Yeah, you know when you're going in there. We've encountered deer. We've encountered deer in basically the same areas, so you know right away where you're gonna see deer. And we did see some on it would have been the north slope there.
Mm-hmm.
The one night we saw a bunch coming down, and I bet there was some nice bucks up in there, but we just didn't put time into that area because we knew there were bucks in that area.
Yeah, and it would have been Wednesday night, so it would have been the night before because I hunted with Bob on Wednesday, and I hunted with Bob on Wednesday, and that night I was watching that north slope, and I spotted a nice buck over there with a couple does, and that looked like an area where, that looked like an area that you could, he was a decent 4x4. That looked like an area you could get up above. Like that's one of the weird things about that area where we're hunting is that you listen to all these guys out west talk about how you approach mule deer out there, and they feed low and they go up in bed, and it's a complete opposite in this area, which is, in a way, it's great for both morning and night if you can work the wind and the thermals right.
Yeah.
You know, but like we were so close so many times, it was ridiculous. But so, moral of the story, I think, what were you gonna say? You got that look in your eye.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to think of why they would have been in that pattern, those deer, and they're trying to get into the cool during the day.
Right.
So I wonder if maybe they're dropping down to get to cooler temps.
Oh, I'm sure they are. And if you think about, like, you look at a lot of the landscapes, like, I know we both follow Aaron Snyder quite a bit and watch a lot of the stuff he does, and like a lot of the topography and the areas that he's in. But a lot of the guys you look at, they're talking about that pattern. Like the deer up high where there's some sparse pines or whatever the hell the pine trees are, and they're bedding up underneath those, but then they're coming down and eating in the meadows in the bottom. Yeah. That area we're at, it's all timber low, and the meadows are above the tree line. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing. It's solid, dark timber.
Yeah.
11,300 feet and down. That's a freaking massive section of dark timber. And like
the deer aren't going anywhere low either. Once they go down low into the trees, they can't really keep going low to get out of there.
It pinches down.
Yeah, they're not gonna. I wouldn't see them just getting spooked all the way out of that basin low. If anything, they're gonna jump over the ridge tops.
Yeah, dude, I wonder what that area would be like now.
Nothing's gonna be up in there, I bet.
I bet you that they're still up in there.
You think so?
They say a lot of the big mature muleys, like they don't want to come down out of there until they have to.
If you had a little snow and you could get on some tracks, find the fresh tracks.
Like rut style activity, it'd just be freaking nuts. But see, you wouldn't want to be up in there to tent at this time. I mean, that area is getting socked.
I was in a 0 degree, and I was.
It never got below
I don't know what else I would pack to make myself warmer. Like I just don't have much warmer. Like I have warmer hunting clothes, but
but you're not gonna pack it in there 7 miles,
dude. It's not. I don't know if it's possible.
Yeah, you'd have to have a teepee with a stove or something if you were gonna be up in there.
Yeah, but think about that one night where we were hunting and we were all freezing our asses off because it was so windy. When we were all sitting the one night.
Yeah.
Like the night before we left out or whatever.
It wasn't even freezing, but the wind chill had to be.
I had enough clothes on to sit in my tree stand in 20-degree weather for a whole day probably. That's how much clothes I have.
You look like the Michelin Man with all your puffy stuff.
Exactly, and still not enough clothes to stay warm. So
yeah.
I will go back to I do think I could have going up in there again. I thought I trained harder, but definitely needed a lot more. And going on, I don't think I would go on an elk hunt that far from a road again, just for the fact of pack outs and like the toughness of it.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun to go. There's this draw to doing super difficult hunts, and it's almost like a testosterone contest. Like, oh, I went on the most badass hunt.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be totally against going either for elk, going with an outfitter, doing some kind of a drop camp, or even going and doing go to national forest, like where Brian and I went, where you could drive your truck in, set up a base camp, and you could hunt from there and come back to the truck every night. The downfall that we experienced when we were there, you had cattle grazing, you had tons of people riding ATVs. So that wilderness experience you're still going to have disturbance from recreators. Yeah. But even with that, I think I'd like to experience, we were very close this fall, 2 years ago, the Harvey clan was all talking about doing that trip to that outfitter. Yeah. And that outfitter's got leased land, and it's like some kind of mining, it's got gas wells and stuff on it. But, they've got cabins that are 5-6 miles from the main lodge that you can drive your vehicle to, and you can hunt right from that cabin, and you're on private land, and you can have a guide with you. There's a lot to learn with the elk stuff. I don't know. That's where I'm at. I get the feeling some of the other guys aren't interested in that. But to me, I'd rather, the deer thing we can figure out. Yeah. And I'm sure we can figure out elk over time. But the every other year trip, and then, trying to carry both tags in your pocket. So it's well, which direction am I going today? Mm-hmm. That was an interesting thing too, everybody having both in their pocket. It was oh, squirrel, where am I going?
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't, I think there's a lot to be said about going just and learning elk hunting with a guide. We know Crispy went out there, and their guide service basically just put them in a blind, in a ground blind every day, and that wouldn't be something that I would want to do. But to go out and maybe if you did have somebody pack you in 7 miles somewhere with horses or whatever, if you could set up a camp that way, I think that would be cool.
I think it depends on the season, because Crispy's hunt, they went out there in late, it was right November, before Thanksgiving. Yeah. And they were hunting a migration corridor, so that outfitter knows exactly where these elk are going to walk, because they walk that every year. So it's listen, Crispy, you sit right here, and you let those elk do what they're going to do. And he shot a bull the first morning, in the first couple hours, So, but to your point, that's not what I'm looking for when I go out there. I want to go out there and chase them, but I also want to have somebody guide me how to do it. Mm-hmm. We're at both of that stage in our lives where we've got a lot of responsibility. We got a lot of things that we can't, was I practicing bugle and stuff? Yeah. But I didn't have the time to really put into that.
Yeah.
I was more focused on getting my gun prepared, physically getting prepared.
Yeah, you do whatever you can. You get your legs ready, and you get your gun ready, and you do what you can. But
that was our first elk hunt too. We saw elk the last time, but it was the first time we ever had an elk tag in our pocket.
Yeah, we weren't actually chasing them, even though we did try to chase them for a day or two.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say you talk about craving the hunts that are tough, and I feel that's there's a lot of things we like about that Pennsylvania hunt, but one of the things about that hunt is day in and day out you're dropping down into these bowls, valleys, whatever we're hunting, fingers, and you're dropping down and you're dropping down and you're dropping. I was explaining this to my dad the other day, saying you get to the edge of these mountains and you look over and you see what you think is the bottom, and it's only about a third of the way down that hill.
Yeah.
And then you get to that area where you thought the bottom was, and you look down, and you're probably only looking another third or a little more of that, and then like just never ending hills, and you're just walking to the bottom to go still hunt deer,
and then walk back up the other side.
No, you have to walk back up at some point.
And I think we lose sight of that around here, and I think we've become so enchanted with this Western idea that we feel like in order to get those experiences that we have to drive 24 hours to do it. And like that's something I think that myself, and I know you're in the same place too, I would like to try to do some things in New York or in Pennsylvania or up in really just New York and Pennsylvania, because it's right here. Like we can be in PA in 2 hours to where we hunt and get some pretty wild experiences down there. And it's like we don't need to run 24 hours away to go do that. It's like the Adirondacks. We could have all the adventure we want.
That one sticks in my mind a lot. Like we did that bear hunt, and like to pack camp back there, maybe to that like lean-to that we saw the one day.
Yeah.
And just camp there for 2 or 3 nights and hunt deer from there would be cool.
Yeah.
It just like what gets me sometimes is like, so Pennsylvania is a good example. We went on there for 3 days during rifle season. It wouldn't suck, but like if you're going down there bow hunting early on in the season, like say we went down there for 3 days and you do shoot a nice buck, like you're kind of putting an axe into that 3 days of rifle season that we really like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it would be nice to weigh those where you can. I guess it's the same really. You could go up to the Adirondacks and go muzzleloader hunting right now, and like that would be awesome. But do I want to use my rifle tag and basically put an axe into my rifle season this early?
Right.
Like if I go up there and shoot a buck, I
never thought about that. Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah, it's.
Are you sure? Because Jimmy was only shooting.
I think it's by. I mean, I could be wrong here. I don't really hunt northern zone.
Hey, you got your computer up.
Yeah, I have been looking at this up because I have an area that I can hunt around here that's crossbow only during rifle season.
But you have to use the tag that's in that season.
It's in season tags. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm gonna have a hard time figuring out what the tag thing is, but I'm pretty sure it's. I don't know. I guess I could. No, there's no way that you could shoot a buck with a muzzleloader in the northern zone
and
and then come down to the southern zone during gun season.
No, you're right.
They wouldn't have it that way, but
legally.
Ohio.
Kidding, joking, of course.
Like Ohio's 2 hours away too. Who was I saying? I said something to somebody about West Virginia. You can get to West Virginia in about 5 hours from here, which is not a terrible drive. And I mean, I haven't done any research on West Virginia hunting seasons, but there's got to be a ton of public land down there.
Right.
Just try not to run in any moonshiners that are they're gonna
cut your legs off.
Yeah, cut your legs off.
I have a theory, and I'm watching this as I travel around and cover. I drive for work. I mean, I cover 1,000+ miles a week, and I swear I'm seeing a lot more vehicles at public land trailheads than I'm used to seeing.
Is it the meat eater theory? Is that your theory?
What's the meat eater theory?
It's the Uncle Steve theory.
What's Uncle Steve say?
Uncle Steve is getting everybody into public land hunting.
Yeah.
Is that what your theory was?
I think so.
Blow your story?
No. No. You're not blowing anything. That's what I was getting at. Is that I think I think there's a factor there, between like everything that, there's a huge movement, which I think it's great. Like it was almost sad to me. Like in a way you're torn as a hunter, because you show up to a trailhead and there's nobody there, and it's like, ooh, I have this whole mountain to myself, or I have this whole area to myself. But then on the flip side, when you take a step back and you look at it, it's like there's people aren't hunting. Like what's going on here? So like it's cool to see that, and you start asking people, like, or you start having conversations. Like I in my line of work, a lot of blue collar guys. I work for a school bus dealership, and I'm a salesperson, so I get to see a lot of mechanics and talk with them. And a lot of mechanics are hunters. Yeah, these guys know, like, they're watching the hunting public and Born and Raised Outdoors.
The hunting public's a big one.
They're watching this stuff on YouTube, which is sweet. But like I think it's making a difference. So it'll be interesting as we get like closer to gun and through that, like how much more, because we know the last couple of years we have kind of gotten ahead of that and started hunting some of this public land around us, and there hasn't been much pressure at all. And I think it might maybe a little bit different this year from what I'm seeing.
I think it helps in our situation where we do have a little bit of private land, that in certain times of the year where hunting pressure on public land is going to be the greatest, we're not hunting public land. That's when we're focused generally. On private, yeah. We're on private, so I guess that helps. And to that same point, usually when we are, like our bigger hunts, when we go to Letchworth, when we go to Pennsylvania, I don't know, when we do a lot of screwing around New York, it's generally early bear season, late rifle season, late muzzle loader.
Opening day of gun. It's not Thanksgiving. It's right.
So many guys are hunting first, second weekend, Thanksgiving, and like a lot of people don't even hunt Thanksgiving anymore. Like, right. There's just
they gotta watch the parade on TV. Yeah, Macy's Day.
Not a lot of people hunting. So it's funny though. You mentioned cars at public land. Like one of the first things I noticed when we pulled into Colorado to that parking lot was the truck next to us. I looked in the cab and saw like 3 coolers. I was like, okay, this guy's hunting. And I was kind of like in my head, I was like, shit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, all right, like, look, we saw that guy in the woods and talked to him, and he was awesome. Mm-hmm. Then we had another guy pull up. He was awesome too. And there's so much land to hunt. There's nothing to worry about.
Right.
But like, it is that mind game of like, there's hunters back here. Like, hopefully I'm not. I think it's in everybody's head.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm not in a really good situation and it gets messed up by like, for some reason, whatever. But those are your 1 in 100 situations, right. Probably too.
And I mean, think about you get so jammed up on it. I want to get this whole area to myself.
Yeah.
But like, think about when we hunt over at the farm. You're not hunting. You're hunting neighbor property that you have access to.
Yeah.
But like, how far are you from Brian? You're 150 yards, 200 yards from Brian.
Yeah.
And on a different piece of property, but Brian hunts his stand with a west wind, and that's blowing right to you.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. Like, so like, it's so funny because you get so jammed up thinking about, well, there's a car in the parking lot, there's somebody out there, and it's like, think about how we hunt when we hunt private land. Like, we're all,
oh my God,
everybody could be hunting in a. Brian and I was telling the story about the doe I shot the other day. Brian and I were 70 yards apart.
Yeah.
If there was no leaves on the tree, we could be doing hand signals back and forth to each other all day. But we consistently kill animals when we're that close together. So it's like, does it really matter?
No, it used to be a circus up there, and in that area.
Over at the farm,
that block. So my family owns a farm that butts up against Billy's family's farm, is kind of how it works. And my cousin lets me hunt it, which is great, because that's really the only private land I have access to hunt. It's a nice piece of property, and it used to just be opening day. It used to be a circus. 50 shots by 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
There's like just insane amounts of shots, and like people are walking everywhere.
There was no property lines. Like everybody hunted everything.
Yeah. And that's one of the cool things about this public land thing is I think posting property is way more prevalent. People are gonna report you if you're trespassing, unless you know them and you have permission or whatever. Like trespassing is way down, I would say, where it used to be.
Yeah.
But I guess it didn't used to be trespassing. But either way, more houses are getting built. Pieces of property are just becoming smaller. So like public land is the way to go. Like, and
if you want huge expanses of property where you can just get on foot and just go, that's like some of the few places you can still do that. You know, I'm blessed with our hunting camp because our neighbors are so good to us to allow us to hunt their property too.
Yeah.
You know, we only have 100 acres, which really isn't that. I mean, it's a lot of land. I'm blessed to have that in our family, but our neighbors, they have the volume of property that we have around us that, you know, hey, you guys are cool to poke around that stuff too. Like, that's a lot of property that we can wander around.
Yeah.
But aside from that, like, you're right, public land that's one of the only places we're going to find that opportunity in the East here. There's not very many 1,000-acre blocks of property that you could just get on foot as a hunter and just go. There's not a whole lot of opportunity of private land that you can get access to for that.
Walk a mile or two into the woods and not have to worry about crossing property boundaries or whatever. And I don't know, it's funny now, so I got to stay away from, I can't pack anything, which means I'm probably not going to hunt super deep, and I'm probably not going to be packing in my climber into season, which was kind of one of the ways I really wanted to hunt this year was my climber, because it's got a shooting rest, and I get the shakes something fierce when I'm pulling back on an animal. So that part kind of sucks, but like in my head, I'm like, well, I got some good areas of public land that I don't really care if I chase animals off of. Not that I'm going in there wanting to,
right?
But if I set up wrong on something, it's like, okay, live, learn, and you didn't ruin your opening day tree stand,
right?
Which is like part of one of the things that I think in the back of my head is like, okay, like, I got 2 weeks of crossbow coming up here. If I have a couple hours, maybe I'll go over to the farm. But if I have a longer amount of time, maybe I go to some public land and just, I found some spots that I know of where I could maybe get into some weeds on the ground or sneak around on the ground a little bit, and go about it that way with the crossbow. So those are kind of some things going through my head. It's like, okay, how do I go about the next couple weeks when we start getting into the rut before season? If I do go to the farm and shoot a buck, I probably would maybe go hunt public opening day.
Mm-hmm.
Just go walk around somewhere. I got the one place that's crossbow only. Like, it's like maybe I just go there opening day.
Yeah.
Probably a great opening day spot.
Probably.
I mean, I gotta think there's idiots around there just chasing around deer, and they're going.
That piece of property probably gets trespassed just as bad as the one that I hunted.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
But it's not a terrible thing. That was the most active opening day I've ever had in my life last year. There's deer running everywhere. So what Danny and I are talking about, we participate in a program with the Nature Conservancy, where you do some volunteer work and get access to. You can get access to a property or two, and then you have to submit for days that you want to hunt. So there's a little bit of legwork you got to do to it, but you go into it thinking, my brother and I were jazzed up last year for opening day because we had gone to this piece a couple times during archery, and there was like not a sign of a soul hunting it. Like the deer were just wandering around, and then so we go there opening day, and it was a free for all. I mean, there was people walking everywhere, gunshots, 4-wheelers on property that is absolutely no. That
no
stuff
wheelers,
is So that's a whole other conversation, and it's interesting how that organization works and what their purpose is. And here in New York, we're pretty fortunate because New York State, we're not in a situation where they're trying to get rid of public land or wilderness areas, but they're trying to add to it. So all like Nature Conservancy buys these pieces of property or gets them deeded to them if somebody has it in their will or whatever, and then they eventually some of the land will eventually get sold off to the state. So like a bunch of these pieces, they're like Harriet Hollister. They just added that's a game management area near Hunt Hollow ski club down in the Honeoye Hills there between Honeoye and Hemlock Lake, and they just added a big piece that was Nature Conservancy, and it was weird. Like last year, you couldn't hunt it. It said it was owned by Harriet Hollister. It was owned by the state under the Harriet Hollister game management unit, but it was all signed up, and they told you couldn't hunt it. So I don't know if like it was in a transition year or something, but like they're constantly adding to a lot of these game management units, which is awesome. I mean, you go in the Finger Lakes and you look at a map. If you get on X and you start looking at a map to see what public land there is, like there's just thousands and thousands of acres, and it's like I can go to camp and I can spend the night and hang out with the guys, and I can, when they jump on the 4-wheeler to drive up the hill, I can jump in my truck and drive down the road and have a totally different adventure today than I would tomorrow, hunting a different piece and not have to worry about whether I'm going to bump this deer that everybody else is trying to get after or whatever, and try to just learn and get better every time you're out there.
Yeah, one of the things I've been trying to, like, I have some friends that are like hunters, just rifle hunters, family property. Like some of them just do it because their family's always done it. Like whatever, everybody does it for their own reason. And like I kind of always did it for like deer camp and like opening day and like all this other stuff. And you start learning as you get older, like you can find your own fun in it. Like find what you like to do and do it. And if you enjoy it, that's all that matters. And like the one thing I'm starting to like a lot is just going out for walks. Putting the backpack on, you got a weapon with you, that's great. Like go explore. And you don't have to be in a tree stand for 13 hours like I've done my entire life.
Yeah.
You can go walk around and like enjoy it. So it was always drilled into my head. Sit as long as you can.
Yeah.
Sit as long as you can.
Absolutely.
Because there's idiots out there that you can sit longer than, and they're going to get up. When they get up, they're going to move deer. And maybe when I'm walking around, I'm that idiot that's bumping deer around. But if I'm having fun, that's what it's all about.
That's exactly right. There's no right or wrong way. You're out there, you're on an adventure of your own, accomplishing what you want to accomplish. And I think that's what resonates so much with this type of content like that like I'm enjoying the stuff that the hunting public puts out. And each one of those guys has got their own style. And it's really fun watching that and learning from it and they're breaking the mold of what a lot of people think because it's what you saw on these big network shows.
Yeah.
And it's like, you got to be in this tree stand and you got to do this, you got to do that. And it's like, like Zach from the hunting public, like he's just a wild man who's just like, I'm going to sit behind this bush and it'd be a dream if I saw a deer over there. And then 5 minutes later, there's a buck standing there. And it's like, that's pretty genuine and real what they're doing. And it just got to go out there and you just got to go out there and do it.
Yeah. I don't want to knock on the juries because they are great at like what they do, like their niche of the market, which it's not a niche, it's a big hunting market. But like I always watch their videos on the app here and there, and it's like, so we're sitting in our muddy blind, we're sitting on a food plot, we know this deer comes through here, and the two of us are going to sit here and they do sit long periods of time, which is fine. Like I said, I'm not knocking them because they enjoy it. They shoot monster bucks that I'm never going to shoot. But like, part of me's like, man, I wonder if they really get enjoyment out of it. And like, I know like Mark and most of them do get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but it's like, I don't know. Like, you're rarely gonna have an experience where you're gonna top a buck that you've already shot.
Right.
Like, I know every time I go out there, there's a chance I can shoot a buck bigger than
right,
the biggest
you
one
don't
I
have.
have.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have a 200 incher. You've got
exactly. I got 125 around the wall or whatever.
Which is better than anything I've ever got.
It's I love that deer. It's just a nice heavy 8-point, not anything huge at all, but like,
I can't believe you let her decorate that thing like that.
you know,
It's not even Christmas.
If the deal, I'll tell you what.
Okay.
If the deal was you could put as many animals on the wall as you wanted, and she gets to decorate them, I think that's a really good deal.
For 12 months out of the year?
Yeah. Sometimes 4th of July, he gets an American flag hat.
Oh, that's pretty cool. It's like Uncle Sam buck.
Some ornaments around Christmas. It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I like find your enjoy. The point is find what you like for fun and do it. I just like.
But that's like the Drurys and all that stuff. All those guys, the big name guys in the Midwest, guys and girls, like they've got these massive farms and it's so controlled and like that's their full-time job. And I think that's what gets lost in a lot of this is that, and there's been a bunch of talk lately that I really am like. I'm loving hearing because it's just a different perspective on it. Like I was listening, like I listened to his podcast today and it's like Todd just did the one with me last week and it's like him and I stay pretty close. I like to follow and listen to all of his podcasts. Yeah. He just put one out that was just real simple, 25 minutes, like top 5. I don't know if it was mistakes or whatever he said, things that he identifies himself that does. And it's like the thing he talked about was don't get jealous and don't get tied up in what everybody else is doing. And I think it's so easy to do that. If you go back, 25 years ago when our fathers were our age in the I don't know if you want to say prime of their hunting, but like they were starting to really figure it out.
Yeah.
If you wanted to see the buck that some guy shot in Iowa, it came out in the magazine 3 months out of the year, or you saw it on TV one time. It's like now you see this guy that shoots this huge buck and it's like, well, what am I doing wrong? And it's like, but if you go into it with that mindset and then the other thing that's been talked about that I really love hearing is that if not everybody is hunting in areas where there are deer like that, and there may never be deer. There might be in this county, in Wyoming County, there might be 10 200-inch bucks, but they will never be seen because they live in a swamp and there's no reason for them to go anywhere. Who knows? Maybe there is, maybe there isn't that number. I'm just throwing a random thing out there. But it's like what we do know is that there's a lot of beautiful 2-year-olds, 2.5-year-olds, and a lot of 3-year-olds. And like that's what the age class in our area with the hunting pressure supports. Yeah. And I'm tickled pink if we call ourselves the 2-year-old killers. Yeah. Because I'm like tickled freaking pink if I shoot a nice 2-year-old buck.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and like whatever puts a smile on your face too. But to your one point there, it's funny. Maybe 15 years ago at the shop when a few people in the group got some really big deer. Like it used to be a thing where word would get around by phone, and people would just start showing up. Like groups of people would just come to the shop.
Really?
Yeah. More people would come than do now, which is cool, but you didn't have camera phones and pictures.
So if you wanted to see one, you need to go and put your eyes on it. Or you drive all around town with it in the back of your truck and show everybody.
And the other thing is like it's funny to think back about the jealousy thing. Like you see all these deer on social media. And I feel like it was really bad maybe 6 to 8 years ago, I would say, when social media just started getting hot with outdoors and stuff and Facebook. Yeah. And like, man, like you'd see somebody that'd post a picture of a buck, like big bucks 2 years in a row. It's just like, what's he doing? Like,
he must be baiting. Right? Must have hot rodded that one. Yeah.
And
But it's like,
whatever.
Right.
Like,
who cares?
I started thinking about it today too. Like we're talking about doing different stuff with the page and posting, and I'm telling some of my buddies like, hey, let me know. Like, we want to post anything about anybody that's having fun with the outdoors. Like,
Yeah.
if you're having fun hunting, send me a picture of your coffee opening morning, and I want to see it, and we want to talk about it. Like,
Right.
I just, how do you have fun hunting or fishing or whatever? And like, started thinking about, it's like, man, like, could get ourselves into, like, I think at some point somebody might complain, or like you post a picture of somebody and somebody doesn't like that person, and you're doing the social media thing, you're gonna get into that at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And like, whatever, like, if you feel the need to make idiot comments on social media about someone, then you probably have other problems. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that goes for a lot of things in life. If you're gonna throw shade at people, you probably got something else you're dealing with too.
Not to go on that rant.
Yeah.
But well.
No, it's all good stuff, and I think, I mean, we're a little over a year in now doing this with the whole social media page, and
Yeah.
we don't have that many followers, like, and that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
And I think we have to stay focused that that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
It's about, impacting the community of people, whether you want to call it a community or a group or just the people that we associate with. I'm having a riot doing this, and it's a lot of fun. Like, I'm sure you see the same thing and you experience the same thing. I go back home, I don't live where I grew up. I go back home, and people are like, they know what we're up to, and they're like, man, you guys are having some awesome adventures and stuff. Like, that's why we're doing it. And I think sometimes we have to all kind of keep each other accountable to that we're not doing this for likes or for followers.
Yeah.
It's to kind of just share our lifestyle and try to encourage people to get out there and try it if they want to. And if they want help doing it, we're here to help show them the way.
It's funny because it's so much more rewarding too that we're doing it organically, that like when I see some random person just followed us, it like almost makes me smile. Like if I'm
we've had
I'm looking at my phone, like a couple a day, might get a couple a day. I was talking to a couple buddies that followed us today that kind of barely even knew about it, and I was like, oh, I gotta get you some stickers and stuff, and so we got like 3 followers today, which is a huge day, which was awesome.
Yeah, epic follower day.
Huge Instagram day for Pert Near Outdoors, and it's just I don't know. It's just cool. They said they liked the stuff on the page, and I was like, dude, like the one's a big bass fisherman out towards Albany. So it's just like, yeah, let us know, man. I wanna see where you're fishing and how you're doing, and I think people in New York might like that. Like, hey, they're hitting on top water jigs an hour north of Albany this week.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I've got folks that think it's cool we're doing what we're doing, but what we're doing, it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah.
And that's where I think as we get into, so right now we're in the heat of hunting season.
Yeah.
But like Jimbo's and you are both into snowmobiling.
Yeah.
Then that's an outdoors thing, like ice fishing or pheasant hunting or snowboarding or skiing. Like, those are all things that people do outdoors, and that's part of that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think it's all that stuff too that, show that and encourage it. And I think people, everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has whatever their reason is for being in the outdoors. Not everybody's going to hunt, which is fine.
We're going to be heavy into outdoors right now. But like, my dad was pheasant hunting Saturday and got a bird. Like,
where did he go, to Darien or?
He was in Dale.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, turkey's going on right now. I'm keeping an eye on the flock behind the house here.
Yeah.
I want some of that Uncle Steve turkey sausage.
Oh yeah.
That stuff's good. But
I've got a bunch of turkey meat from my bird this spring that I just haven't had a chance to dig into.
Open up that turkey sausage recipe. Get you some pork.
In the book, in the cookbook?
Yeah, oh man. We love that stuff.
Hmm.
It's good. And to his point, how long can you eat wild game during a year? Well, are you taking a 20-pound turkey and mixing it with some pork fat
Yeah.
and turning that into your breakfast sausage? Because that might last you 20 Saturdays during the year or more. So there's
You got to do different stuff for sure.
Ways to make your meat go farther.
And I don't know about you, but this is something that's been irking me lately. And I'm excited because I think I've finally turned the tide with our crew here that we're going to stop grinding, and we have stopped grinding on the night of cutting, and we're going to do a grind after the season's over and actually do the burger the right way. Because it really upsets me, and I know how you are, so I would imagine it probably bothers you too, like hearing those guys talk about how they don't enjoy the venison burger because it just doesn't have good taste and doesn't cook well, and it, like, I get it. Like, I wouldn't want to eat it just straight up ground right off the burger pile, right straight through the grinder one time and then cook it.
I don't know. And I mean, I eat a good amount of burger. I have some stuff in the fridge. I made burger last night. I've never had that issue with our burger. Like,
no.
I don't know if I've ever even pulled a hair out of our burger.
But you don't mix pork with it or nothing?
No, same burger that comes out of that shop every time. But the one thing is, it's going to save a lot of time on our cut nights because, like, that just takes so much time grinding and that, like, packing it into those little packages.
Right.
Like, we could stuff them into the burger bags too. Would be a lot quicker.
Yeah, we're going to do stuff.
Right out of there's, I don't know.
We're going to do a legitimate operation.
That'll be a big. I like that. I think that's a big improvement. So.
Yeah, and I think everybody will enjoy the meat more because so why that thought came up was back to your point of, like, the turkey sausage. It's like you can only eat so much of one thing,
Yeah.
So to me, it's like if you can go and we can do a burger day and you can make your Italian and your Cajun and your sriracha and Polish, and then you can make your link sausage, and it's like it's then you can go and you can eat that stuff all the time with all different things,
I got two deer is probably my limit personally. I got two bucks last year, and I don't know, say I get 30 packets of 1 pound bags of burger.
Right.
Like, that's really hard for me to go through 30 packs of burger in 1 year. But those 1 pound packs I could turn into summer sausage tubes, and you go through that a lot quicker. So
absolutely,
there's ways around it.
Yeah, the opportunities are endless, and it's fun to. That's what it's all about, man. So I just probably wrap this up. Been a good conversation. I'm turning into a pumpkin. I'm freaking tired.
Yeah, I'm ready for a little lay down here on the couch, watch a little TV before bed.
Nice.
I've had some long days at work here.
I'll tell you, this is sweet. Like, you got a nice little studio here, a comfy couch. We're just relaxing.
I was telling Lauren the other day, this sectional was one of the best purchases I ever made.
It's a nice sectional.
It's fantastic.
Fits this room perfectly.
We use the crap out of it, but I'm sure no one really cares about that.
What do you mean you use the crap out of it? Should I not be putting my hands where I'm putting my hands?
It's really the only place to sit in the living room.
That's
all I'm saying.
Okay,
feeding them,
hammering them. So I'm thinking. So I guess actually let's address this real quick. No, let's not address it right now. We're gonna have to explain to everyone the whole feedinum.
I got some
and
ideas.
breedinum
we're
thing.
Good there.
We're gonna do some because we've had a few people make comments about, like, they don't understand it and it makes them uncomfortable because they think that we're, like, illegally feeding deer or something.
We'll put a little promo together.
It's not the case.
And get that out.
Just that if you'd like an idea where it originated from, it's probably still won't make any sense to you, but you can search Bubbles Hockey Night in Canada from the Trailer Park Boys.
Feeding them.
And you'll get a quick idea there.
So what's coming up here? We're priming for a little promo video. think we're gonna do a little feedinum segment maybe for hunting season,
Yeah.
and I think that'll be pretty good. So hopefully we'll get some good interaction with that. And I think that's all I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'm glad that you're going to be able to
Yeah.
get out here in a couple weeks and do some hunting finally. And I'm fixing to think that this weekend might be getting exciting here on here.
It's a little early, I think. But,
I don't know. My buddy Connor, he's going to call me in the morning because he called me tonight all excited after his hunt. He said he saw like 3 or 4 bucks tonight, and I told him to stop and save his story so I could hear it and we could record it.
Hear it in person.
Yeah, so he's going to call me tomorrow and we'll record that. But so the new moon is the 27th. So that is Monday. No, Sunday.
Oh.
Sunday's the new moon.
Okay.
And then we've got a full moon on the 10th.
Opening. It's
10th
setting up good
or
for
12th.
opening weekend, I think.
It'll be that week. It's going to be the middle of that week is going to be the full moon. So, yeah, everything's looking pretty good. It's been pretty cool around here.
Sustained low temperatures, and next weekend looks pretty good too.
Nice.
So,
yeah. So, excited. Season is ramping up. So, thanks for sitting down with me, buddy. It's a pleasure. Glad you're feeling better.
I enjoyed it.
Feed 'em. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Empty bush cans. Good night, people.